Thank you, Chairman. First, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your work that you've done on this issue. Thank you for your constant persistence in bringing it up over and over again. You have made a difference on the issue, a significant one, and a difference in the United States of America, and I mean it. I'm proud of the work you've done. Mr. Baer, I can't say the same for you. Man, I don't even have the words, and I would need an hour and a half with you, one-on-one, alone, to go through it. And please forgive
I'd be happy to, anytime.
Well, maybe
anytime.
We'll take you up on that. Let me tell you, I mean, the things that you said to me, and I mean, I'm not being disrespectful because I always try to be respectful to everybody, are bizarre. I believe like I'm in bizarro world. I don't even know where these statements come from.
Well, I got all the statistics in my
I
statement.
didn't ask you a question, sir. Mr. Roy, I want to associate some of the words that he said. I wish you could sit in front of the families, and it isn't just Lake and Riley. I can give you name after name after name of men and women and children who were beaten, who were raped, who were abused, who were disfigured, who were harmed. And we keep overlooking that because we say, well, there wasn't that many of them. We don't care about the 400 people that got into this country, the best that we can tell, that are on the terror watch list. Well, it's just not that many of them. Let me tell you, to the mother or the father or the son or the daughter that loses somebody, one is enough. And to have this intellectual argument as we sit here in our comfortable chairs in our warm room where Lake and Riley, for example, fought for 20 minutes not to be raped and then finally was beaten so badly and her skull crushed in that she lost her life while her mother was calling her, wondering where she was. That's what matters to me. So, you know, today's theme is a simple one. Actions have consequences. President Biden's dozen of executive orders, they crippled our border security and opened up the floodgates of the southern border. That is a fact. Mr. Baer, I don't care what you say, it's a fact. We see it, we feel it. That's why Americans know it. That's why the election that occurred. Congressional Democrats refused to pass H.R. 2, which was a good piece of legislation, and the floodgates opened more. State and local Democratic leaders opened their cities and spent billions upon billions of dollars to care for illegal immigrants. Legal immigration is good. When my colleagues on the other side speak about immigration, let's make sure we all understand there is a big difference between legal and illegal immigration. Under President Biden, U.S. Customs and Border Protection encountered, and the number changes, it fluctuates, but it's about 10 million inadmissible aliens from January 2021 to December 2024. That's 3 times the number encountered during the Trump administration. Let's talk about the real numbers and the real facts. The Biden administration deliberately dismantled the effective protocols and tools that we had. It instituted catch and release. That had an effect. It ended the construction of the wall. That had an even worse effect. They ended Title 42. That had another bad effect. And they ended the Remain in Mexico policy, which hurt us as well. Over and over and over again. Everything to open up the borders. No nation prevails with open borders. And the negligence has introduced us to serious international and national danger. Nearly 400 individuals, as I said, on the terror watch list. They're not hypotheticals. They're real people. They're real men and women that have been hurt. And, you know, the gentleman, good man on the other side, the ranking member, Mr. Raskin, said, most illegals are not violent. Most illegals are not violent. I agree with that. Most are not violent. They're still breaking the law. But damn it, enough of them are that it's scary. Tell all those families that most of them are not violent. They don't care about most of them. Come on, let's get in the real world. And it's not compassionate what my friends on the other side of the aisle are doing. It hurts us. And it hurts illegals, it hurts children, it hurts American families, it hurts legal immigrants as well. So I have a question for Mr. Fabricatore. I hope I pronounced your name.
Yes, sir.
I was the first non-Italian to marry in my wife's family, and they're probably listening to this, and I'll get in trouble if I screwed it up. I think we shouldn't fund sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. We're sending federal money over there. They're purposely breaking the law. What do you think, and what's the specific impact cutting off this federal funding would have?
We should not fund them. Sanctuary cities do not protect American citizens. They only protect criminal illegal aliens.
Thank you. The gentleman's time is
Thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. Great member of Congress. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it was easier being a dentist, by the way, you know? Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Neal, and members of the committee, thank you for hosting this Member Day and allowing me to speak on this incredibly important subject. Let me be clear. President Trump is counting on us. He's counting on us to deliver the certainty and economic relief that comes from extending his historic tax cuts. This must be done. It fueled one of the strongest comebacks in the American economy in history. By locking in these tax policies now, we can give working families, small businesses, and manufacturers the confidence to invest, to grow, and to sponsor. This bill must also go beyond the basics and address the challenges everyday Americans face. First, tax relief for working families must remain front and center. It is so important. It is critical. Let's expand the child tax credit and ensure families that they can keep more of what they actually earn. They're breaking their back, making a living. Some of them working 2 jobs. Some families working 3 and 4 jobs. Working parents should not have to choose between paying their bills and investing in their child's futures. And the child tax credit should continue to be a tool for helping Americans. But let me even be more clear. The child tax credit should not go towards the families of illegal aliens. It should not. That's why I introduced legislation to cut this provision from the child tax credit, and I hope to see similar action taken in the very bill that we're discussing today. I would like to be part of that. We can no longer offer incentives that drive people to come to our borders illegally. We can no longer afford to keep paying the billions of dollars it costs to take care of them. In addition, the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit also plays a crucial role in helping parents afford the high cost of child care so that they can work and fuel the economy. This is not the only provision of the tax code specifically designed to assist working parents, but it is the main one. And it is important. Expanding the CTC could provide families with much needed relief, offset the cost of going to work, and ensure that parents can continue to provide for their families. Next, it's past time that we get our border under control. We all know this. I hope that we're all together in this at the end of the day. It's a big deal. We need robust funding in this bill to secure our borders, to hire more border agents, and enforce our immigration laws. It isn't just about safety. It's about protecting American workers, and it's about the integrity of our immigration system. We must also unleash American energy. We've been blessed with the resources to do this. American energy is the answer. It will increase revenues. It will place us once again in a dominant role on the world scene. It is critical. We should export energy. We should lead. We should supply all of our own energy. Others should need to come to us, not as in the past administration where we had to go begging to them. Maintaining the 45U tax credit for existing nuclear plants is essential to preserving and strengthening this clean, reliable energy source. Nuclear energy is one of the main answers to energy in our country. It already supplies nearly 20%. In my home state of New Jersey, almost 40%. This mechanism ensures nuclear facilities can confidently plan significant investments, such as the $1 billion planned in my district, the Salem nuclear power plant. It's important, and they're looking for reliability. They're looking for consistency. They don't want to know that they want to start a project, put a lot of money into it, and then the rug is pulled out from underneath them. Additionally, we need to strike a balance when addressing the SALT deduction cap. And this is what I mean by that. We cannot have a deduction of $100,000 or $200,000. I come from a blue state. It could be run better. I understand why other members have concerns about salt. But we do help states in various ways, whether it's subsidizing corn, whether it's in agriculture in general, and I support that. I support the needs and desires of my colleagues. I also know that this is important to my state and many other states. And it isn't as if we don't do it, we're not punishing the people who are responsible for bad policies. We're punishing good taxpayers and good Americans. So we have to find that balance. We have to find the sweet spot where we help the majority of middle-class taxpayers, but we don't overburden our budget. I get it. I understand it. I understand the concern with it. So we can't. You'll never hear me advocate, and I've said this directly to President Trump last weekend. I spoke to him today, same issue. We cannot overburden the budget and our reconciliation bill. At the same time, we need to do something. We need to have some sort of a SALT adjustment. As Congress, we routinely subsidize programs, and I mentioned that before, all across the country. We need to do something here too. We need to cut waste, foreign programs that are wasteful, and I'll be done in a minute. We need to cut funding for certain international organizations that continue to undermine the United States of America. We're funding the UN, and the UN half the time is cutting our throat. We're funding the World Health Organization, cutting our throat. We need to cut subsidies for the Green New Deal. We need to cut the bureaucratic waste in our federal agencies. We need to cut federal grants to partisan research projects. There's a lot we can cut. We have to use a scalpel, not a hatchet, and that's from a dentist. We need to use that scalpel appropriately and make sure that we're not cutting things that help good, hard-working, average American people, but that we're cutting the waste and, quite frankly, the stupidity. I appreciate this committee. Chairman, I appreciate you. You all have an unbelievably hard task and hard work. And by the way, I'm done now. I'll say this one last thing. We need one big, beautiful bill. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Van Drew. I now recognize Representative Zach Nunn, the gentleman from Iowa. Mr. Nunn is a sixth-generation Iowan and an advocate for working.
The gentleman, and I
Yield back. Gentleman from New Jersey is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, it's humorous to me. President Trump's been in for 3 weeks. It's about 3 weeks, right? And you all are blaming him for the inflation engine that was created over the last 4 years. Come on. Seriously? Realistically? Come on. But let me get to the real issue here. And the real issue, Mr. Chairman, is the censorship that happened at so many levels of our government, at so many levels of our institution, in our media. It penetrated every single level of our society. Let's just look at a little bit of what this committee did over the last few years. Look at social media. The Biden White House colluded with Facebook to silence American citizens. They censored satire. They censored dissent. They censored facts they didn't like. It was censorship, and this committee exposed it. And now even Mark Zuckerberg has to say, in August 2024, he said he publicly regretted, he apologized for what had happened because of the compliance that they had with the Biden administration that used the executive branch inappropriately. But let's talk about more. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about our students and our professors. And they came before this committee too, and they told us how they were punished for holding conservative views, different views than the mainstream. And it could happen to you all. It could happen to somebody with a progressive view or a liberal view. It just isn't right. Every view should be accepted, tolerated, and encouraged in education. They were disinvited, they were deplatformed, they were chased off of campuses by angry mobs. At the University of Buffalo, conservative students were physically attacked. At Cornell, a student called for stabbing and raping Jewish women while professors continued to push blatant anti-Israel objectives. Mr. Aaron, I never heard you say a word about any of this. At Tulane, Jewish students were beaten in a protest while administrators stood by. And at Berkeley Law, and these are just a few examples, student groups created Jew-free zones, banning anyone who supported Israel from speaking. Because that's what it was about, censorship, because our free speech is the most powerful tool that Americans have. This is all censorship. The committee exposed it. Let's talk about healthcare. Doctors were silenced. Scientists were blacklisted. Intel officers suppressed DOD and FBI findings on the lab leak. Remember the lab leak in Wuhan? Impossible. I said it, man, I was mocked that it really possibly and probably did come from a lab and not from a wet meat market. That was a big joke back then. You were censored. You were censored if you had a different opinion. The CDC and the FDA withheld data on vaccine side effects. It was censorship. And this committee, again, exposed it. The FBI, the Department of Justice, remember that stuff? Spying on conservatives, spying on Catholic churches that were going to, spying on concerned parents and labeling parents who were concerned about their kids and going to school board meetings as domestic terrorists. They were trying to censor them and using FISA, worst of all, to go after millions of Americans inappropriately. It was censorship, and we exposed it. The ultimate censorship, the media, the legacy media, which pretended none of it was happening. Most folks never got to hear about it, didn't even know. There's still a lot of Americans that don't know. It was all censorship. And now I hear the other side lecture us about the abuse of power. Really? Seriously? After what happened after the last 4 years? You gotta be kidding me. It's unbelievable. You know, I was talking to a reporter outside before. They said, you know, what's the one thing you regret? They were doing a little bio on me in your years in politics and government. You know what I regret is that every single American didn't have to sit here in these judiciary meetings and hear what's going on to their country. I wish they knew, and they don't, because the legacy media doesn't let it out, barely covers it, covers a tiny fraction of it. I'm surprised we've survived at all with free speech. Hour after hour, hearing after hearing, case after case, I wish they were here. We fought back. We won for now, but we're in trouble around the world. Our country's in trouble. We still are. We could really be losing our freedom. We could be going into a dark age. Mr. Schellenberger, I have questions for you real quick. I don't have much time. Please, just yes or no. Sorry to do this to you. Has President Trump, to the best of your knowledge, ever pressured Facebook or Twitter to censor true information? Yes or no?
You know, I think you looked into this, right?
Got to do this quick. I'm running out of time.
We didn't see the request.
Okay. Did President Trump ever, last question, I can't get through them all. I'll ask that they'll be put in the record. Did President Trump ever direct intelligence agencies to work with social media companies to suppress damaging news stories before an election?
Not to my knowledge.
Did President Trump ever label parents as domestic terrorists?
No.
Did President Trump ever spy on Catholic churches?
No.
Did President Trump's DOJ ever pressure big tech to silence political opponents?
Not to my knowledge.
Did President Trump have done any of these things, wouldn't the media say he was abusing power if he had done it?
I'm sorry?
If President Trump had done any of those things, would the media say he abused his power?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This subcommittee will come to order without objection. The chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We welcome everyone to today's hearing on ending the weaponization of the Justice Department. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from the great state of Alabama who is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Without objection, Mr. Hunt of Texas will be permitted to participate in today's hearing for the purpose of questioning the witnesses, if a member yields time to him for that purpose. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. Welcome, everyone, to the first hearing of the Subcommittee on Oversight. Today, we are here to shine a light on something that should be deeply concerning to every single American: how our justice system was allowed to become weaponized against political opponents. Early in his presidency, Joe Biden told the nation, "It's not my Justice Department, It's the Justice Department. Former Attorney General Merrick Garland promised the same thing. That was their promise, but we now know it was a lie. For the past 4 years, it was not the People's Justice Department. It was a political weapon used to go after anybody the Biden-Harris administration felt needed to be attacked. Let me lay it out clearly, case after case, so there's no confusion on what happened. Let's start in the great state of New York. Alvin Bragg ran for Manhattan DA, focused on only one thing, targeting Donald Trump instead of cleaning up the many problems facing New York City. After years of searching, he revived a dismissed case with the help of former DOJ officials and used a shaky legal theory to turn misdemeanors into felonies. And it wasn't just Bragg. New York's Attorney General Letitia James also made it her mission to go after President Trump. She campaigned on it. Prosecutors, attorney generals, they shouldn't campaign on politics. They should campaign on justice. She campaigned on it, and she promised voters she'd, quote, exact quote, get Trump. Before even seeing a shred of evidence. And sure enough, once in office, she followed through, twisting civil statutes into weapons for political gain, targeting not just Trump, but his entire family business. In Fulton County, Georgia, Fani Willis also campaigned on prosecuting President Trump. She coordinated with the partisan January 6th committee and the Biden White House from Georgia and hired her romantic partner as the lead prosecutor. Couldn't make this stuff up. I guess office romances can sometimes take you places. For Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, it was tropical destinations. It was luxury hotels, all on the taxpayer's dime. And while they were busy enjoying the perks, the cases they were building against Trump were falling apart under the weight of conflicts and impropriety, because it was pure political lawfare. I want to just note, no one should run for DA, AG, or any legal office. Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, nobody should do this with the sole goal of going after one political figure. It's not what those jobs are about. That's not justice. That's vengeance. Our legal system isn't supposed to be about personal grudges or political payback. It's about fairness. It's about impartiality. It's about the rule of law. That's supposed to be the standard in America. Unfortunately, under President Biden, that standard wasn't just abandoned at the state level, it was shattered. It was shattered at the federal level as well. Jack Smith was unconstitutionally appointed as special counsel. His lead counsel pressured a defense attorney with a judgeship offer to flip a client. So if the client flipped, he'd get a judgeship. Smith admitted to altering evidence in the Mar-a-Lago case, evidence tampering at the highest and most important level. Pure political lawfare. The FBI conducted an unprecedented raid on Mar-a-Lago, the home of a former president. They ignored standard protocol. They didn't wait for President Trump's lawyers to respond. They didn't use a local field office, and they bypassed all typical legal channels. Pure political lawfare. The FBI also targeted religious institutions. You couldn't make this up again. And parents. They labeled traditionalist Catholics as domestic terrorists, traditional Roman Catholics as domestic terrorists, and considered spying on their churches, on their priests, on their parishioners. Think about that. I really want everybody to think about it. Forget the politics for a minute. The FBI was planning to spy on grandmothers clutching their rosary beads in prayer, treating them as if they were a national security threat. If they can do this to Catholic churches, and this is the important part, what's stopping them from doing it in any place of worship? To Protestant churches, to Jewish synagogues, to Muslim mosques, or to Hindu temples. It was Catholic churches one day. It could be any of those another day. It could be you. If you think that sounds far-fetched, I want you to just take a look, if you get a chance, to what they did in my home state. In New Jersey, the FBI raided the largest Hindu temple in the Western Hemisphere, home to some of the most peaceful and spiritual people on the face of the earth, Hindus. Biden's FBI stormed the temple. He invaded private quarters, religious areas, and held guns. They held guns to the faces of swamis, holy men, some of whom were wearing nothing but their evening wear, their night wear, their pajamas. These are individuals devoted to peace, nonviolence, and prayer, yet they were treated like dangerous criminals in an aggressive show of force. It's wrong. It's un-American. And it didn't stop at places of worship. The DOJ also turned its sight onto parents, moms and dads, grandparents who dared to speak up for their children at local school board meetings. Instead of seeing concerned citizens, the Biden administration saw potential domestic threats. They used counterterrorism resources to monitor and intimidate parents simply for voicing their concerns about what was happening to their own children in their own classrooms. The DOJ even weaponized the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrance Act, the FACE Act, to target pro-life advocates. This doesn't even matter if you're pro-life or pro-choice. Again, it could happen to anybody. Take Mark Houck, a peaceful pro-life activist and father of 7 kids. In a blatant show of force, the FBI sent a SWAT team to his home, raiding it, and a pre-dawn raid with guns drawn, terrifying his wife and his children. Whether it's people praying in churches or parents speaking out at school board meetings, the message from the DOJ, from Biden's DOJ, is clear. If you practice your First Amendment rights in ways they don't like, you will become a target. Could happen to any one of us. This is pure political lawfare. The Justice Department slow-walked the investigation into Hunter Biden, allowing statutes of limitations to expire, tipping off defense lawyers about search warrants, and ultimately offering a sweetheart plea deal that nobody else would ever get. Meanwhile, the DOJ was slow-walking investigations that might make the president look bad. The full force of the DOJ was aimed at President Trump and any, even worse yet, people that didn't sign up for this, any of his allies. Just look at the timeline. After announcing his candidacy, President Trump was indicted 4 times, twice by partisan DAs and twice by an unconstitutionally appointed special counsel. I'm sure my Democratic colleagues will say that it was not coordinated, but it was. And I'll say it was pure political warfare. What I've laid out is just the framework of what this Judiciary Committee uncovered last Congress. It was the work of this Judiciary Committee and our chairman, Jim Jordan, that did that. My colleagues, we will dig deeper into each case. I pledge to you that this committee, this subcommittee, is going to dig deep and dig hard and find out the real truth. And the reason is not because we want to rehash everything in that ugly, ugly past. The reason is we never, ever want it to happen again. It shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a liberal or conservative. It could happen to you. I want you to really think about it. It could happen to your church. It could happen to your mosque. It could happen to your synagogue. It could happen to your temple. It could happen to your school. It could happen to your cause, whether on the right or the left. It could happen to your beliefs. It's un-American. It's wrong. This should never happen again. Our justice system should be blind to politics, blind to personal beliefs, and focused solely on fairness and the law. Under Attorney General Pam Bondi's leadership, this administration, this Congress, and this subcommittee are working to restore integrity to the DOJ for everyone, all of us. We will ensure that never again will our justice system be used as a political weapon. I thank our witnesses, all of you, for being here today, and I look forward to your testimony. I now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. This is my first time serving as a ranking member of a subcommittee during a hearing, and I am grateful to be here.
I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to the second hearing of the Subcommittee on Oversight. Today, we are continuing the important work we began in our first hearing, exposing the weaponization and politicizing of federal law enforcement agency against the American public. This time, we'll be focusing squarely on the Federal Bureau of Investigation under the Biden administration. A bureau bloated by bureaucracy, a bureau that burns through billions, not millions, but billions of dollars in taxpayers' dollars to chase political enemies, a bureau that silenced dissent and trampled on our constitutional rights. All while real threats to our safety were ignored. This wasn't just a leadership failure, it was a betrayal of the American people and of the American trust. This hearing is more than oversight. This is about restoring trust. This is about standing up for every American who believes that government should protect them, not target them. Let me be clear. The FBI should be a shield for the American people. Instead, under the Biden-Harris administration, it became a sword to use against them. Let's start with parents who spoke up for their kids, parents who voiced concerns about radical school agendas. What did they get in return? A surveillance file, a federal investigation for just trying to be a good parent. That's not law enforcement. In my book, and in most Americans' books, that's intimidation. Let's talk about people of faith. The Biden FBI branded certain Catholic Americans as, quote, radical traditionalists and potential domestic terrorists. They even discussed infiltrating churches by having parishioners spy on their own people, by their own fellow parishioners. And it wasn't just Catholic churches. In 2021, the FBI raided a Hindu temple in the state of New Jersey. Using overwhelming force, agents stormed sacred grounds. And listen to this. They held guns to the faces of the holy men. They disrupted religious life, all based on loose, untrue allegations, which are now, thankfully, unraveling in court. Our sacred places, our churches, our synagogues, our temples, our mosques, they should be sanctuaries, not scenes of government surveillance. Let's talk about free speech. The FBI knew Hunter Biden's laptop was real. They knew it. They colluded with big tech to frame it as Russian disinformation. They tried to bury the story from the American people. That wasn't law enforcement. That was raw political election interference. And all of this, the worst part of all, it wasn't free. It came with a price tag. In fiscal year 2024, and listen to this, the FBI spent over $6 billion, not million, billion dollars on intelligence, counterintelligence, and counterterrorism, all on American soil, more than half of its entire budget. But instead of using those billions to fight violent crime or keep our communities safe, the money was funneled into politically driven investigations and abuses of power. The waste did not stop there. $220,000 paid to Igor Danchenko, a key source behind the discredited Steele dossier, plus another $300,000 to that planned before the FBI can finally close him as a source. Up to $1 million offered to Christopher Steele to try and corroborate, which he couldn't do, his own baseless claims. $200 million more secured for a new FBI headquarters, a reward in Greenbelt, Maryland, despite widespread public distrust and concern and strong opposition from the Judiciary Committee. And that is only scratching the surface. The FBI couldn't give us enough real numbers, and we're going to continue to pursue that and just find out how much this really cost us. For 4 long years under the Biden administration, Americans had to suffer through this. Groceries got more expensive, rent kept rising, families struggled to make ends meet, some working 2 or even 3 jobs just to stay afloat. And while they were scraping by, Americans working hard, trying to survive, the federal government was using their hard-earned tax dollars not to help them, not to protect them, not to make things better, but to surveil them and fund political hit jobs. People, and I'll use the vernacular, they're pissed off. They're tired. They're tired of it, and they have every right to be. They want the FBI focused on real threats, the southern border, cyber attacks, violent crimes in our neighborhoods and our cities, foreign adversaries that are hacking our elections. Not on chasing down somebody you don't agree with, not on chasing down a political opponent. All of this pointed to a clear conclusion. The Biden FBI picks and chooses its priorities based on politics, not on public safety. And ladies and gentlemen, that is wrong. And if it weren't enough, whistleblowers tell us about a corrupt bonus structure, just to make it even worse. Bonuses for opening more cases, bonuses for inflating the numbers, bonuses for manipulating timesheets. Imagine being rewarded not for catching criminals, but for cooking the books. You couldn't make it up, but it's true. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's not a Republican talking point. It's not a political talking point. This isn't speculation. This is documented, well-documented abuse, verified by brave whistleblowers and confirmed by this Judiciary Committee. Some may say, and good question, well, what are you doing about it? I'm going to tell you. We're working to fundamentally reform the FBI from the ground up. We are drafting legislation to rein in abuse, cut waste, and refocus the Bureau on real threats to public safety. We're investigating every single dollar spent and every abuse of power uncovered. We are demanding accountability from those responsible and pressing for transparency at every single level. And yes, we are exposing the truth. Because as they say, the truth shall set you free. The first step to real change is making sure the American people know exactly what's going on, what was done to them with their own money. That's the cruel part of it. By their own government, the cruelest part of it. Director Kash Patel is leading a new FBI, one that returns to its roots, one that Americans can be proud of. He moved agents out of Washington, D.C., back into communities, back to fighting violent crimes as they should be. Attorney General Pam Bondi took swift and decisive action to dismantle the most politicized units within the Department of Justice. She redirected resources towards real law enforcement priorities, scaled back abusive practices, and made clear the DOJ's mission is to uphold the law, not to serve any political agenda. Any political agenda. You know, it's the old saying, if it happened to us, it can happen to you. This isn't Republican. This isn't Democrat. This is just doing the right thing. Together, they are rebuilding the Bureau from the ground up. They're doing it the right way, with transparency, with accountability, and with a focus on the Constitution of the United States of America. This is the FBI that the American people deserve. So today, we're going to hear from those who know the truth, former agents, former insiders, people who saw firsthand what went wrong and what we can do to fix it. Because, you know, this isn't just about the past. It's about a better future. It's about restoring our faith in American institutions. It's about protecting our freedoms. It's about demanding that taxpayer dollars go to protecting Americans, not targeting them. The only way that we will understand where we are and where we want to go is by understanding where we were. It's about doing the right thing. I thank you, and I look forward to this testimony. I now said that immigrants are bad people. We love legal immigrants that come here the right way. They are great Americans. I'll tell you a story real quick. I was picked up in a taxi cab the other day in Washington, D.C. Young gentleman driving the taxi cab. I love to talk to people, start talking to him. He's from Ethiopia. He came here legally. He always wanted to be an architect. His cousin was an architect, and he admired him so much, and his cousin had helped him. But in Ethiopia, they tell you what you're going to be. You don't have that choice like you do in America. So he was told he wasn't going to be an architect. He legally immigrated here, worked his butt off, gave it everything he had, worked multiple jobs, got his degree, and was working still more because now he was getting his master's degree. He taught me. He said to me, for God's sake, protect your country. All these illegal immigrants coming here are not good. Legal immigrants are angrier about the illegal ones than anybody else. They did things the right way. They did it by the book. They're good people. We love them. So let's be clear. Cut the nonsense. I'm not directing that to you. And you know, let's also cut the nonsense because it costs money. There's only so much money in this world, and we're going through a lot of budgetary stuff right now. And I make it clear, I'm fighting for Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Many of us are on both sides of the aisle. But when you're spending money on this stuff, it's less money for our children. It's less money for our seniors. It's less money for our veterans. It's less money for our disabled because we don't have an endless amount. So when you're spending tax dollars on that, our American people in our cities and in our rural areas and everywhere in between are getting hurt. Let's cut through the nonsense. We're taking things away from them, and it's wrong. You can't have a country without borders. You can't have public safety without law enforcement. You can't have public safety when you're releasing lawbreakers into the community. And not all illegals have committed horrendous crimes, but some have, and we're not checking on it properly. There have been murders, there have been rapes, there have been disfigurements, there has been all kinds of harm done. And when you create a sanctuary city or state, you are compounding that. And you know what? The only thing worse than the illegal people when they come here, especially those that are violent, are the people that condone that and give them benefits and help them to stay here. How wrong is that? They're hurting everybody else who voted for them. I'll give you one example. My home state, the state of New Jersey. Nationwide ICE is currently detaining nearly 48,000 illegals. It's exceeding its funding capacity, which, as you all know, is 41,500 beds. So, in the Northeast, particularly in New Jersey, we face a severe shortage of beds. So what did ICE do? They took action. In New Jersey, they plan to open a 1,000-bed facility in Newark, in Delaney Hall, to relieve the pressure. And guess what? Newark's mayor fought it. He sided with the people who were illegal, the people who were breaking the law. He doesn't want to help in law enforcement. And by that, then you're breaking the law as an elected official. The elected official is a lawbreaker, and it's wrong. We know what happened to Lake and Raleigh. We know what's happened to so many people. We're trying to clean up the chaos that was left behind. Bottom line, I have a couple questions here. So I want to, Sheriff Wagner, you face legal threats for doing what you're doing. Could you tell us a little bit about that real quickly?
Yeah, right now we're being faced with a lawsuit from the Attorney General of Washington State on, in my view, some...
They're suing you for trying to uphold the law. What a crazy world we live in. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but how
okay.
awful that is.
That's okay.
No, because it pisses me off.
Yeah, I get it. It pisses me off. But the reality is that it's some of the circumstances that have been, it's very political. It's politically driven, and it's unfortunate that we're in that position because we, like I said before, we've had a jail that's been closed for 3 years. I'm not housing people. I use outside entities to do that. I don't have the resources and manpower to go out and round people up out in the fields. Not only that, the other mentioned person that was here earlier, look, we're a small community, and I do have the trust of my community. I have a 2/3 Hispanic population in my workforce at the sheriff's office. I have guys that less than 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that were illegal, got their citizenship, and they work for me. So I understand the process, and I understand how these people are affected. The whole fear-mongering is coming from both sides, quite frankly. But it does come, and it tries to hit our community because we are Hispanic population of 34%.
And there's the truth.
That's
There's
the truth. And we unfortunately are dealing with a nationwide problem where the border is the southern border, not the northern yet. And my community is affected because guess what? We fit the mold that needs to be in politics apparently right now.
Thank you for what you do. I yield back.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a UC request. This one is from Newsweek. Donald Trump pardon recipients are being charged with new crimes since their pardons. And this is NPR, January 30th, 2025. January 6 rioters pardoned by Trump had criminal records.
Without objection. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Chairman McClintock. Another day and another hearing to distract the country from the dumpster fire of the Trump administration instead of talking about how Trump and Musk are destroying our economy, busting unions, gutting Social Security and Medicaid.
Fair remarks, but before we get into them, so much has been said on the other side. I just want to address some of that. First of all, I want to say, Mr. Moskowitz, you really do have talent. You really do have potential as a full-time stand-up comic, for real. You're good. You're good. It's fun. It really is enjoyable. I think you got some of your own material too, and you embellish a little bit, but it's still fun. Secondly, on a serious note, earlier in the meeting, we were discussing the ranking member for the Committee of the Whole, something about deporting babies and U.S. citizens and ICE and detaining criminals. Let's be clear. First of all, that's not your issue. It's not why you're here. I'm sorry we had to digress to that. This is not a reconciliation meeting. I really do want to talk about the Bureau of Prisons and how we can make it better. And I really started the meeting out by saying I was extending my hand to see we're going to disagree on some stuff, but let's see if we can work together to make it better, because what those folks are going through isn't good. We can do better. Quite frankly, it's been going on for years on both sides of the aisle, so let's not anybody be holier than thou in this, okay? And we're not deporting babies, by the way. I have to bring it up because it said, and we're not deporting, and I know somebody's going to disagree with me on the other side, probably the ranking member, and that's fine, U.S. citizens. There were a lot of folks that shouldn't have been in the United States of America that were committing crimes and doing bad things that nobody appreciated, obviously, that committed murders, disfigured people, raped people, hurt people. Some of them were on the terror watch list. We're not speaking about immigrants. We love immigrants, but we don't like those people. And yes, the border is much, much better now than it was. And yes, sometimes we might need some help from the Bureau of Prisons, but ultimately it makes it a lot better for them too, not having lots of bad folks come into the United States. I just want to, again, focus on associating myself with the remarks of Mr. Biggs. We really want to try to do something together here. It's my goal, and I know it's hard, and I know it's highly partisan, but I think there are some areas we're not going to agree on everything. We know it. We have divergent ideas for the future of the United States, but there may be a few points where we can come together to try to make it better, and that's what I hope for, and that's what I hope we would do. Finally, Mr. Goldman made a remark too about, I think I heard it right, and if I didn't, I apologize, but I believe I did, about jackbooted Gestapo agents as far as ICE. The men and women who work for ICE are oh so similar to people that work for corrections. They're just doing their job. They want a safe America. It's a hard job. It's a brutal job. It's not easy. They've been understaffed, abused, and mistreated for years. I don't like it in corrections. I don't like it in ICE. We shouldn't do it to anybody. So, no, they're not Gestapo agents. And that's abusive and inappropriate to refer to them so much. And I do call out Mr. Goldman for doing that. I wish he was here. Finally, real quickly, because I used up a lot of my time, but if you give me a brief answer, Mr. Wild, what structural or policy reforms would give you and your teams the stability and the access to really serve incarcerated individuals? The work you do, I like. It was referenced before by Mr. Cohn. When you believe in something and you believe you can get better, I've been around corrections a lot, and some of the most successful work that I have seen done is faith-based. whatever the faith is. Just the faith that there's something greater and bigger and better for all of us, quite frankly. We all need that, including those of us who sit up here. But tell me, how can we make it better?
First of all, we would ask for the full implementation of the tenets of the First Step Act. Prison Fellowship is situated to be able to provide these services to those who live in prison, those who work in prison, family members, and to create better neighbors inside and outside. We believe that we have something really important and valuable to be able to offer to this conversation, and we're ready to do that. And so with the First Step Act, we would encourage the inclusion of other faith-based organizations.
I hope that this committee in some way can help. That's something I believe, I'm hopeful, that across party lines that we can agree on, that there's a place for God to help people rehabilitate, regardless of what D or R is next to our name. Mr. Potter, would you agree, and I think this is what I got from your testimony, and then I'll be done, but I want to just summarize it, and you can say yes or no, that we don't actually listen to the correctional officers enough. We always do this in everything that government does. We don't listen to the people who are most directly affected. Do you believe within the current budget we actually could make it a lot better? And finally, recidivism, phew, that's a hard word for me. Do you agree that the quality of the facility actually affects that? I know it's 3 questions real briefly.
Yes, I do believe.
Sorry, I'm looking at you. Yes, go ahead. No, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay, yes, I do believe that listening to the men and women that do the work is extremely important. And they're the second largest stakeholder in the system. So any reform that's going to happen is going to affect them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. I yield back. With that, I will recognize the gentlelady from the Oversight Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We welcome everyone to today's hearing on the examination of threats to operations being performed by the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from the state of Texas, Brandon Gill, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. After that, we will remain standing for a moment of silence. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. We are here today for one reason, because the American people are watching their leaders. They're watching their leaders at every level of government, and they're watching those who choose to protect illegal alien criminals over their own law-abiding citizens. It's not rhetoric. It's not hyperbole. It's not a Republican talking point. It's just fact. Let me be very clear. This is not about politics. This is about public safety. This is about law and order. This is about whether the United States of America still has the will to enforce its own laws. We're coming out of the largest border crisis in American history, and the American people continue to live with the consequences every single day. During Joe Biden's presidency, more than 8 million aliens crossed the southwest border illegally, and that's at a minimum. There are probably many more. There are a lot of numbers out there, but we know at least that many. 6 million of them were released into the country. They were given legal advice. They were given food. They were given education. They were given transportation. They were given shelter, and in some cases, even debit cards, all on the American taxpayer's dime. And at least 1.9 million gotaways crossed the border and escaped law enforcement altogether didn't even know who they all are and where they all are living. The open southwest border created a drug crisis, a human smuggling crisis, and a violent crime crisis. Unfortunately, none of this was by accident. It happened because the Biden-Harris administration chose chaos over control, ideology over enforcement of the law, and politics over the American people. The numbers just don't show a crisis. They show a full-scale collapse of our sovereignty, our security, and the very idea that a nation without borders is still a nation at all. The worst part of it all is that it just didn't happen. It was designed. On day one of his presidency, the Biden-Harris administration canceled border wall construction. Day one. It gutted the Remain in Mexico policy. It abused immigration patrol authorities to release hundreds, thousands of illegal aliens into our communities. It virtually stopped enforcing immigration laws on the interior of the United States, which resulted in more than a 60% increase in ICE arrests during the first few months of the administration. And the Biden-Harris administration turned a blind eye to the spread of violent gangs like Tren de Agua and MS-13 across the country. The result? Terrorists on watch lists entering our country, criminals with prior convictions for violent crimes such as assault, rape, murder, being released instead of removed, and an immigration enforcement system overwhelmed, underfunded, and pushed well beyond its limits. The only bright side of this chaos is that the American people made their choices overwhelmingly clear by rejecting these chaotic and terrible policies. They removed President Biden and Border Czar Harris and gave Republicans control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And now, President Trump is back in office and finally doing what should have been done years ago, restoring order, rebuilding capacity, and demanding accountability. But he inherited a system that has been pushed past its breaking point. ICE has more than 7.6 million aliens on the non-detained docket, up 135% since the day that Biden took office. Agents are scrambling to track dangerous individuals who should have been deported long ago. Right now, ICE needs more detention space than it ever did. But the same voices that created this chaos are now trying to shut down the very detention facilities that are needed to fix it. That's why this hearing matters. From New York to California, local politicians are actively working to undermine federal immigration enforcement. Perhaps the most egregious effort is in my home state, the great state of New Jersey. And we're going to play a quick video now showing this.
An ambulance there apparently turned away at the ICE detention center in Newark.
We've seen at least 2 ambulances try to pull into this ICE detention facility here in Newark, New Jersey, and they turned that ambulance away.
The detention facility holds members of MS-13, murderers, arsonists, drug traffickers, American killers.
We want freedom. Free our people. This is sacred ground. Free our people. This is not a legal facility.
On May 1st, Delaney Hall, a 1,000-bed detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, was officially reopened. It houses illegal aliens charged with crimes like rape, murder, burglary, and weapons offenses. Facilities like Delaney Hall are desperately needed to help prevent dangerous criminal aliens from remaining on our streets, on your streets. The reopening of Delaney drastically expanded ICE's detention capacity in the Northeast and enhanced the agency's ability to manage the increasing number of enforcement and removal operations of illegal aliens in our country. Despite the severity of their crimes and illegal status in our country, those being detained at Delaney Hall are treated with dignity and are housed in a facility that exceeds the standards of many of our own U.S. prisons. It has clean dorms. It has indoor and outdoor recreation areas. It has mental health services, and medical services. It has phones, webcams, and consular access. And yet from the moment Delaney Hall was reauthorized to operate as a detention facility, it has been under constant, relentless political assault. Local officials have used inspections, lawsuits, and bureaucratic hurdles as weapons. Not to make the facility was operational, but to completely shut it down. Outside of the facility, there have been coordinated protests led by political figures, including Newark, New Jersey's own mayor, who publicly vowed to, quote, padlock the building if necessary, and declared that immigration enforcement of criminals is not welcome in his city. This isn't oversight. That's not oversight. That's obstruction. There's a big difference. It's lawfare designed to undermine federal authorities and score political points at the expense of our public safety. On May 9th, the tension culminated in a shameful display by the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and members of Congress who stormed into the facility without clearance, without following protocol, and physically disrupted law enforcement operations. They cursed at staff. They shoved past security. They assaulted federal law enforcement officers. And for what? To free whom? Criminals? I'm going to show some more pictures. So the question I have, was it to free Hugo de la Torre Tomia, wanted for prosecution in Peru for the crime of raping a minor? He's wanted in Peru. Was it to free Jorge Luis Sanchez Luna, a Mexican national who is a registered sex offender who sexually assaulted his own daughter? Or was it Lopez Reyes, a Mexican national who's wanted in Mexico? They want him back in Mexico. He's a fugitive for the offense of raping a child, raping a minor. There are hundreds of other awful, horrible individuals like these men currently being arrested in New Jersey, and they're being held at Delaney Hall. And they should be. They should be. So let's be honest. Who exactly are the Democrats fighting for here? This is the part I don't get. Because it isn't the American people. It sure as hell is not the American people. And notably, the very next day after the altercation at Delaney Hall, Mayor Baraka's super PAC, for those of you that don't know, that's a way to raise money, lots and lots of money, released campaign ads touting his efforts to stand up to this agenda as part of his run for governor. It's obvious what happened here. This wasn't about the detainees. It wasn't about law and order. It wasn't about American people. It wasn't about all those marginalized people who get hurt because they live in and around all of us, marginalized Americans. It was about politics, pure and simple. Maybe not so pure. Mayor Baraka was mayor of Newark when Delaney Hall, and I want everybody to listen to this, Mayor Baraka was mayor of Newark when Delaney Hall operated under President Barack Obama. He was the mayor, President Obama was the president. This very facility was operated under that administration. There were no protests, no walkouts, no stunts, no altercations, no attacks, nothing at all. But now that President Trump is back and the American people have rejected the insanity of having an open border, now the mayor and his friends in Congress are outraged. Give me a break. Let's call this what it is, an orchestrated campaign to protect illegal alien criminals and to sabotage federal law enforcement. Just say that one more time. It's a campaign to protect not illegals even, but illegal criminals, violent criminals that also have broken the law because they are here illegally. So when Democrats say they're just trying to help by raiding federal facilities, remember what this really means. They want ICE agents gone and out of the way. You have to believe they want criminal aliens free on our streets. And they're willing to risk public safety, sabotage law enforcement, and lie to the American people. You can't stand for law and order while voting to hurt the police. You can't say you're for border security while sabotaging every single tool that works. Let me be very clear. Delaney Hall is not the problem. Delaney Hall is part of the solution. The real problem is the radical left-wing agenda that sides with criminals over citizens, activists over agents, and chaos over common sense. To the men and women of ICE, this committee has your back. To the communities of New Jersey and the Northeast and the United States of America, we will not let your safety become a political casualty. And to the American people, we hear you. We hear you loud and clear. You want a country that protects its citizens. You want a system that upholds the law. And you want a government that chooses order, not anarchy. That's exactly what House Republicans are fighting for. And I promise you, we will win this fight against left-wing chaos. And I thank you. Just before we start and move forward, I want to address one other thing. We're going to have a hearing today, and sometimes it's going to be contentious, sometimes it's going to be hot, sometimes we'll be argumentative. That's part of America. Now, you all just listen, but up here. But at the same time, let us respect each other. Let's not speak about our demeanor, our dress, our physical stature, our hair, whatever in God's name people think of. This is the Judiciary Committee, and we're going to run this on both sides of the aisle in an appropriate way. We're going to run this like ladies and gentlemen that profoundly disagree on an issue. I now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Crockett. I thank the ranking member. I am going to yield 5 minutes to myself. So, I like to keep things simple sometimes. I'm from Jersey, too. And sometimes simple truths really kind of display more complex truths as well. So I think there's a few simple truths. And I'm going to ask all of you, and I'm going to ask for a really quick, yes or no answer. I believe open borders, sanctuary cities, and sanctuary states where you're releasing individuals back into the community, including dangerous criminals who have been guilty and have committed crimes like rape on minors, like murder, like disfigurement, like dealing and selling drugs, just to name a few, like violating gun laws, all of that. I think that's really bad. I don't think we should let that happen. Let's really get down to what this is all about. In the last administration, we let people like that come across the border and come into the United States of America. Would you agree with me that that's bad? Mr. Arthur, quickly, yes or no?
Yes, I do, sir.
Mr. Marino, yes
Yes.
or no? Mr. Mikowski, yes or no?
Absolutely, sir.
Mr.
Yes.
Hauser, yes or no? Okay, so that's something we've already done better on. We're straightening that out now. We are not allowing those individuals to come into the United States of America. Do you believe, as I do, that as members of Congress, and you can state this, don't be afraid to say it, that we have an added level of responsibility, the way that we comport ourselves, whether we are Republicans, whether we are Democrats, whatever we are, that we should behave in a certain fashion. We write laws, so you would believe that we would follow the rule and believe in the rule of law itself. So and I believe we do have oversight. It's a process. You behave a certain way. It doesn't mean that you agree with everybody. It doesn't mean you don't investigate, but that you, as a member of Congress, as a congressman or a congresswoman, behave in an appropriate fashion lawfully, not in a combative assault type of way. Would you believe that that is true? Mr. Arthur, yes or no?
Yes, and I attempted to comport myself that way when I was in oversight council.
I'm sure you did. Mr. Marino, yes or no?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Mikowski, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hauser, yes or no?
Absolutely, sir. It's what the military.
So we saw the video. You saw the video. I don't have to say any words. Look at the video. Even all you who came here with a certain focus in your mind and were told to believe something, look at the video and see what it shows. That's all I'll say. Thirdly, do you think there's a financial effect on all of us in America while we debate the great issues of the day? How much should we spend? Where should we spend it? What should we do with the fiscal resources that we have, with the dollars that we bring in through taxation? Do you believe it's inappropriate to fund illegals, including illegal criminals, which we have? I could ask you that question. In fact, I'll ask a real question very quickly. In the past administration, did we at times fund illegal aliens? I'm sorry, illegal criminal aliens.
Absolutely.
Did we fund illegal criminal aliens?
Yes, sir.
Did we fund illegal criminal aliens in the last
Yes, sir.
administration? Did we, Mr. Hauser,
What
fund
does fund mean, sir? Like,
give them stuff, give them housing, give them clothing, give them transportation, give them education, give them, in some cases, debit cards. Did we do that?
we have provided resources to migrants
Right,
for
we
60
funded
years.
them.
60 years, sir.
We funded them. Not
The first
illegal
Trump
bad
administration.
people we didn't, no. I disagree, and that's wrong. And would you believe that cost people? We don't even have to go into it. Of course it costs the taxpayer. Of course, when resources are sparse, and we'll argue about Medicaid and SNAP and all these things, how about we don't give money to people who are really bad people doing bad things, send them back to the country of origin? Maybe that's a good idea. And I did want to address the ranking member, not the ranking member of the subcommittee, Mr. Raskin. He always loves to talk about the Senate bill, so I always have to talk about it as well. It was a bad bill. I didn't know, I knew it was a bad bill the minute we saw it in judiciary. Had nothing to do with Donald Trump. It codified illegal aliens. It allowed up to 1.8 million to come into the country before anything was done. It did nothing about catch and release. It did nothing about the wall. It didn't rebuild the wall. It did nothing what in the past we had Title 42. And it didn't do anything about the Remain in Mexico policy. Now, real quickly, would you agree that some of those policies in the past administration were good, and that we really didn't need a whole lot more legislation, that we could have done it through the president at the time under the Biden administration? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Mr. Marino,
Yes,
yes
sir.
or no? Mr. Mikowski, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hauser,
sir,
yes
can
or
you
no?
just give me the question one more time?
All the things that I just mentioned, all the things that could be done to protect our borders. We had the biggest disaster in border crossings in our American history. Couldn't have we had prevented that purely by presidential action, not by a faulty, bad Senate bill? I think you're going to see a good bill come out of this Congress.
Sir, I would
That
only
bill was a
state that
bad
this
bill.
is only the first 100 days. You're going to see border surges.
I didn't ask that question.
Until we don't need the Alien and Sedition Act to carry out
What-
immigration
nobody's
enforcement.
talking
We have
about
Title 8.
Do you believe that we could have done better in the Biden administration through presidential action than we did?
Sir, clearly.
Yes or no?
Yeah,
Yes
at the
or
beginning,
no?
sir, there was mistakes.
Yes or no? Yes, we screwed up. We did a bad job in the Biden administration. You know, I mean, even you've got to kind of admit that. And now we're trying to straighten out the mess. With that, I will yield back.
Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to condense this down. Let's be clear. Nobody here on this side, I am not against legal immigration. We are against breaking the law. We want to make this complicated. Not you all, I'm not blaming you, but in general, it's not complicated. We don't want the law to be broken. And the abuse that's going on, or did go on, is causing the American people to lose faith in our immigration system. And see, that's the worst of it, and I'm going to emphasize this over and over again. Unfortunately, folks on the left, folks on the other side, it's even happening today, they'll talk about doctors and teachers and scientists coming over and how we're going to stop that, and they're going to not want to come over. They're not the ones we're concerned with. Scientists and doctors are coming over legally. They're going through the system. And they're actually getting hurt because of what has happened over the last number of years with the illegals coming in, because Americans are getting somewhat confused, unfortunately. Let's not blur this. Nobody is against legal immigration of good people coming to America. That's the way America was built. And as many times as the other folks on the other side will say immigration, I'm going to keep qualifying. We're talking about illegal activity and illegal immigration. And worst of all, we keep doing this over and over again. And under Joe Biden, the problem wasn't just illegal entry at the border, and it's what we're here to talk about today. It was our legal visa processing system. For years, that administration opened the floodgates. They allowed criminals in. They allowed individuals that were indicted in their own country or indicted here. They allowed individuals that were convicted in their own country or convicted here. We had people on the terror watch list, and I'm not only one saying that. We had the FBI director, the previous FBI director here, under the Biden administration, no friend of mine, don't particularly care for him, but he said America was more dangerous than ever before in its entire history, and that's got nothing to do with Trump. He wasn't president yet. So let's cut it out. It's tell the truth time. It's time to be honest. And programs that were designed to bring in skilled workers, students, and seasonal labor have been twisted into a gateway for the wrong people to come into our country. Bad actors were allowed to skip the line. And all while good people that were mentioned and are mixed in were pushed to the back of the line, the people that we do want to come to America. That Boulder terrorist, anybody look at his social media content? He was involved in pro-Muslim Brotherhood propaganda. It was supposed to be a red flag. It usually is a red flag, I guess, but it wasn't red flag. It appears no one actually screened this guy. Meanwhile, I'm going to say it again, because I really want to pound this in, law-abiding, good immigrants who do it properly, they're waiting for years, and I'd actually agree, sometimes too long. They're good people. They love America. Some of them love America more than the people who are born here in America, because the system is overwhelmed by fraud and abuse. The more we let bad actors come into the system, the more it becomes harder for the good actors to succeed and make their way to America. And we've got programs that are good. People come here for a while and they stay. Some of them become citizens. Some go back every year and they work hard. Those are good people. But we're screwing them. We're giving them the short end of the stick. And that's why it's so hypocritical to mix in the bad folks with the good folks the way we are when we converse and debate about it. A secure legal immigration system is not anti-immigrant. It's pro-American and it's pro-immigrant. And we need to restore that integrity. So let's stop letting bad people abuse the system. I got some questions for you real fast. It's like when you vote. You got to vote for this one or that one. I simply want a yes or a no answer. I don't want a whole long thing, Mr. Nor'aster. I want a yes or a no. Are Americans safer when we stop thoroughly vetting visa applicants? Ms. Wan, you start.
No.
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 Good. Should foreign nationals with radical or anti-American social media be denied visas?
Yes.
Yes.
Broadly. Depends. I'm a free
Yes or
speech
no?
absolutist. I
Yes
believe
or
in the
no?
First Amendment of the United States.
You know, when you
so
vote,
I guess
you don't.
no.
When you vote,
As a
you don't
First
get to
Amendment
put a.
believer,
When
no.
you vote, don't talk over me. This is my time, not yours. When you vote, you have to make a decision. Is it fair to legal immigrants who wait years to let visa overstays apply for work permits after they broke the law? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Should someone who is, last one, should someone who is.
I'm
I'm out of time? Okay. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I have two quick unanimous consent requests.
Yes, ma'am.
The first one is an article from NBC News entitled "Hundreds of International Doctors Due to Start Medical Residencies Are in Visa Limbo." And the second one is...
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. And I recognize myself for 5 minutes. I almost don't know where to begin. It was interesting, all the back and forth. And I do have to say this, and it's partially complimentary, and it's just an observation. I do have to admit my friends to the left of me, both geographically and also politically, they're good. They're really good at it. And Mr. Raskin, both of you are, but I mean all of you are actually, Mr. Raskin particularly good at conflating and blurring. He mentioned immigration. I always bring this up through other hearings as well. There is a difference between legal and illegal immigration. There's a difference. And nobody on this side has any problem with legal immigration. That's what makes America. And let's be clear about it. Illegal immigration, and in some cases where we had people on the terror watch list that were in this country and people that had were convicted or indicted of crimes, either on their country of origin or here, yeah, we're against that. Absolutely. I think we'll all say it proudly. We're against it. Also, Mr. Raskin, and I think Ms. Crockett as well, had brought up, that there's nothing illegal. I agree. The purpose of the hearing is, this wasn't talking about the legality, that we don't know of, maybe there is, but we don't know of illegal activity. But the point is, it's distasteful, it's disturbing, it's disgusting. And if the American public had to sit through this today and other hearings we've had, they would be very deeply upset at where their money is going. Mr. Raskin called this a loser hearing. You know who's losing? The taxpayers. The union members, when their money gets drained away to go for these things that the vast majority of them do not believe in. Mr. Soros is good at this, and that's why we're doing this. We didn't say we should take him to jail tomorrow, but he's good at it. He helps to establish these NGOs, these not-for-profits, and then they make sure that millions and millions of dollars flow to them from the taxpayer. It's a pretty ingenious idea. He's making money on his investment, and we think it's wrong, and we don't think it should happen. So I just wanted to clear the air on that, but these guys are good. Now, because I would, and normally, we get along, I try to, but Mr. Walter, can you explain why Soros's model is far more dangerous to public policy and democratic accountability than people realize?
Certainly. And by the way, I'm happy to give the ranking member an example of illegality. There are documents from Soros's own 501c3 nonprofits that show that money was being spent to influence elections to the European Parliament. And of course, that's a violation of 501c3 limitations on political activity. I'd be happy to provide the documents to you if you'd like.
Were they charged with that?
Excuse me?
Were they charged? Were there criminal charges brought?
Sadly, no, nor was there ever a hearing in Congress about it. But there's also the question of our next report on Ms. Soros is going to show over $80 million going to nonprofits that support terrorism. And again, that is debatably not kosher under 501c3 laws. But the way the network operates is you have, in the case of Soros, dozens, even hundreds of things. There's an Open Society Macedonia. There's an Open Society Prague, on and on. Many of these entities getting federal tax dollars as well as Mr. Soros's private monies. And as Ms. Gonzalez was explaining, they are willing to go up to and including regime change, as well as trying to change who's elected to the European Parliament.
Mr. Walter, and I assume that's why you would think this is dangerous. Am I right, Mr. Walter?
Yes.
I mean, this is a dangerous situation, and you even bring a good point. Some of it very well may be illegal, but at the very, very least, it's disturbing, distasteful, of concern, and that's why we're having the hearing. The American people, I know, and I wish millions are watching this. Quite frankly, they're not. Deserve to know about this disturbing information. That's the point of this.
One other quick thing, too, by the way,
Please quickly, because I have other questions.
Ambassador DeBaca's has been a hero in fighting human trafficking. Soros, on the other hand, is one of the greatest pushers of decriminalizing prostitution throughout the entire world, which is one of the engines of human trafficking. There's a journal article on precisely that.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. To all of you, for each of you, very briefly, is there one reform Congress should pursue to stop the hijacking of federal dollars for activism that is this extreme? Like in 10 seconds each. We'll start with you, Mr. Walter. One reform, what is it?
Forcing greater transparency on where the federal tax dollars go, including the grantees of the grantees.
I agree.
That's right. Do a thorough audit of what these programs are, who the main implementer is in each country. This is really necessary.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Stop funding groups that also lobby the federal government.
Thank you. And Ambassador DeBaca.
Restore USAID so that it can actually do these grants and protect the integrity of these grants and release the files about Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't have time, my time is up, but I would debate that with you for a long period of time, sir. With that, that concludes today's hearing.
I've got a UC.
Without objection.
Okay, IRS says churches can now endorse political candidates, and for the record, churches are 501s most of the time.
I'm not going to comment. I have feelings on that, too.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one, too, if that's all right.
Yes, ranking member.
This is Publix Heiress-backed January 6th group spent $180,000 on the rally.
Without objection. That concludes today's hearing. We thank our witnesses for appearing before this subcommittee today. We really do mean it. Time is treasure. We appreciate it. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses or additional materials for the record. Without objection, this hearing is adjourned. Welcome to all of you to today's hearing on the Subcommittee on Oversight. Today's hearing will expose how leftist, nonprofit networks hijack and exploit your federal tax dollars to advance a radical agenda. And it will hopefully answer the most important question of the day, and I'm having a little bit of fun here. Who the hell is George Soros? We're going to find out. Your tax dollars, your money, money that you earned and you worked hard for, have been funneling into left-wing nonprofits pushing extremist causes. It's not speculation. It's not just an idea. It's a pattern, and it's the truth. Under Democratic leadership, federal agencies awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in grants to supposedly neutral nonprofit organizations. But those nonprofits just so happen to be run by their political allies. And they used your money to fund policies you never voted for, and probably, in most cases, the majority of Americans strongly oppose. Is this how our democracy is supposed to work? I think we know the answer, and I think we know it's not supposed to work that way. Is this how your tax dollars should be spent? That I do know, regardless of what your opinion is, absolutely not. It is an abuse of power, one that is quietly restructuring American society in ways no one asked for, and they certainly never voted for. We've seen it again and again, over and over. The last administration dispersed $3 billion to a migrant housing group whose employees were accused of sexually abusing children. Nearly $1 million went to a group linked to riots in Los Angeles. Over $1.8 million meant for women's safety overseas was instead it was used to promote gender ideology through LGBTQ plus grants. And here's the point, even if you agree with the ideology, we should all agree our tax dollars shouldn't be paying for this. And then there's the biggest culprit of them all, the mastermind, the guy behind the curtain, the guy in the dark, George Soros. Who is he? What's he about? He's not just another billionaire with strong opinions. We got plenty of them. He's the architect of an international left-wing influence machine. His Open Society Foundation sits at the center of a global web of nonprofits, grant recipients, political operatives, and shadow partners. And yes, despite his vast wealth, he also takes your tax dollars and uses them as well. Let's look at the facts. The Vera Institute of Justice, Soros connected, received over $60 million in federal contracts from Democrats. Impact Justice, also Soros connected, took in over $30 million to push weak on-crime agendas instead of prosecuting criminals. These are the same groups driving the movement to decriminalize crime, to fund the police, and destabilize our cities. But George Soros does not stop there. He doesn't stop at nonprofits. He's poured tens of millions into buying political influence and quietly bankrolling soft on crime prosecutors and attorneys general in cities like San Francisco, Philadelphia, Chicago, and others. And that's why some of them have become havens for lawlessness. He's buying up radio stations, thousands of them, and media outlets across the country to control the political message and drown out any conservative voice in red states or wherever. That's not philanthropy. That's propaganda. And it's funded with your tax dollars. Beyond the efforts of George Soros, Democrats also funneled over $1 billion in DEI-related grants through the Department of Education. They sent taxpayer funds to anti-Israel groups and climate radicals determined to dismantle American energy independence. USAID used your money to fund, I love this one, I really don't, I'm being sarcastic. Everybody's ready, right? Because I really want to know what the deal is with this. A transgender comic book in Peru. Because we don't have needs in our country, right? We've got money to fund a transgender comic book in Peru. And $13 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. Come on, is that American policy? Is that what your paycheck should fund? I don't think so. Regardless of your ideology, I don't think so. Why do we need a government that, this is why, no, I won't even ask the question. I'll say we need a government that is transparent, accountable, and focused on American interests, America first. We've already saved, this administration has already saved $190 billion in taxpayer money by rooting out this waste. That's what accountability looks like. That's what real leadership delivers. Today's hearing isn't just about spreadsheets, and it's not just about budget line items. It's about who controls the country. Unelected billionaires or the people who live, vote, and work here. It's about restoring accountability and ending ideological freeloading on the taxpayer's dime. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying no more. It's about the American people are tired of being lied to. It is about the American people being tired of their money funding somebody else's political agenda. It's about the American people being tired of being ignored. Today, we're going to follow the money. We'll name the names, we lay bare how the system was rigged, and we'll make it clear your tax dollars should serve only one purpose, the interests of the American people, not the Soros agenda, not the nonprofit cartel. You know, it's a neat gig if you can get it. You make a nonprofit, you create a nonprofit, you spend a little bit of money, but then because you got the nonprofit, all kinds of money pours in from the taxpayer. That's not how the system was supposed to work. This country does belong to the American people, and it's time Washington started acting like it. With that, I recognize the ranking member.
His time has adopted an approach that makes quite a bit of sense.
Trying to get to as many members as
This one would
possible.
be
The gentlelady's
another
time has expired. The gentleman from New Jersey
Thank
is
you,
recognized. Mr. Frost has to leave in a few minutes, so we want to get as many members as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just before I begin, to my friend, he's not here now, Mr. Moskowitz from Florida, There's kind of an old trick in debating. When you're losing the debate on the issue, you change the issue. This is not about Epstein. It has nothing to do with that. And as the chairman so correctly said, the Attorney General is going to be here, the FBI director is going to be here, and we can talk about it till the cows come home. Second thing is, I believe it was you, Mr. Farage, that said COVID changed our world. And in many ways, more than just a biological disease, what it did to us psychologically, governmentally, philosophically was really bad. And we're still not out of it yet because of what happened then. We're losing our freedoms. We are losing our freedoms, and it's not because of an American Congress. It's not because of American courts. It's not because of American Republicans, and I'm going to even say it's not because of American Democrats. It is due to bureaucrats in Brussels and in London, and in other places as well. It's wrong. It's un-American. I am unabashedly, and I think we all are here, hopefully, pro-American. We should be protecting our citizens. Instead, we're watching foreign bureaucrats come to our country and try to force United States companies to censor humor, satire, and news they don't like. It's backwards, it's bizarre, it's perverse, and it's weird. That's what we would call it in New Jersey. It's just weird, and it's not good. It's the opposite of everything that the United States of America fought for and stands for. And it's a globalist mindset. You know, we can all talk about the issues, but I'm going to keep talking about globalism versus American exceptionalism and individuality. I believe very much, sincerely, that the whole battle that's going on now with the right and the left, what's happening in Great Britain, what's happening around the world, what's happening in the United States, is very much that argument. Individuality, and in our case here in the States, Americanism, exceptionalism, or is it globalism? And like the EU's Digital Service Act and the UK's Online Safety Act are the pinnacle examples, and they are, of how upside down things have gotten in the effort to globalize our society. And that is the ultimate showdown. It is resulting in our losing of our freedom, losing our influence, and the only winner here are some countries in Europe, Russia, China, and others. Europe is spending their time attacking American tech companies, dictating how our platforms operate, how our technology operates, and punishing people for exhibiting free speech. The European model, I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but it is wrong. We fought a revolution to defend ourselves. Men and women pledged their lives, their treasure, their sacred honor, so that they wouldn't have to go through this. And we never thought that Americans would be stripped of that. That's why this moment is so serious. It's more serious than most Americans and people realize right now. And you know, for generations, we thought if we were ever attacked, it was going to be a nuclear holocaust. We thought it was going to be the domino theory. We thought it was going to be world wars. We thought it was so many things. I maintain it's this. If we lose our First Amendment rights and our freedom of speech, we have lost everything and nothing else matters. And internet technology is being used as a vehicle to make this happen. So I have a question for Mr. Farage and Mr. Price. This hearing is really good, and I'm sure we're going to have some other hearings. But more than hearings and talking about it, what is it tangibly, this is a hard question, that we can do to stop it? What is it? Mr. Farage, I'll start with you.
The debate we've had here, I mean, nobody here from any side of the debate has told me that the Online Safety Act is a wonderful piece of legislation. You know, right across the spectrum here, you're having your own internal debates about free speech in America, right, healthy, and what this committee is for. I want to make this argument. Yeah, I know these companies are very big and very powerful, many of the tech firms, but you know, governments talk to each other, yeah? And it needs the American administration and businesses to have an honest conversation. Brussels, you won't get a hearing. They are fundamentally anti-American, frankly, and I was there for 20 years, I saw it. I do think there is a conversation to be had with the British government about the shape of their legislation and the impact it can have on American individuals, their liberty, and American companies. So I am calling for, as a result of what's happened, it's clearly got, the legislation's clearly doing the wrong thing. I think it is cause for proper intergovernmental debate.
I hope that we have it. And by the way, we have censorship in America. Watch ABC, NBC, and CBS. I'm at the meetings. I'm at a discussion. I see and hear what happens. I watch, my wife has Channel 6 on, which drives me nuts at home, and it has nothing to do with the damn stuff that actually happened. And that's the truth. We have it already, and I pray to God we don't lose America. Mr. Chairman, indulgence, and I'll shut up. Mr. Price didn't get a chance.
Quickly. Yes, sir. You talked about putting pressure on, and I agree that Brussels is a cold house for free speech. But a lot of the regulations actually happening in my own country, in Ireland, in Dublin, where a lot of the tech companies are headquartered, their European headquarters. And it's the Irish Media Commission, or Commission na Meán in the Irish language, which is the ground zero really for a lot of this regulation. And here's where I think the US can do a lot, because there's strong bilateral relationships between Ireland and the United States, is to put pressure on the Irish government to stop the bullying of tech companies. And already X is in the Irish Supreme Court soon against the Irish Media Commissioner. So they're already starting the crackdown. So I would hope that you use your good offices here to put pressure on the Irish.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of parliamentary inquiry.
Gentleman is recognized.
Why is the witness leaving this hearing early, and certainly without?
He hasn't engaged me. He told us about this. Is not unusual. It's happened before under Democrat leadership of the committee, under Republican leadership of the committee. We're trying to get through as many people as we can. You've had many of your witnesses. Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thank you. I'd seek unanimous consent to introduce a red letter newsletter article from September 4th. What happened when an Epstein survivor confronted GOP Rep. Hageman boarding a flight?
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman?
You see?
No.
Gentleman from New Jersey, I'll come to the gentleman from Washington next. Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it's one of those times I want to express that I don't quite understand where the other side of the aisle is coming from here. You know, this Epstein issue has been there for years. It was here during the Biden administration. It was here when just about all the members who spoke today were here. And yet not a word, virtually not a peep. We're going to have the opportunity to speak to the very pertinent players in this. The Oversight Committee is doing good work now as we speak. But what bothers me is when you take an issue as serious as this and the legislation that we should be voting on today and mix it in with politics. And what do I mean by that? My good friend, Mr. Raskin, who I deeply respect, but he didn't talk about any of this with Epstein until a few months ago.
Would the gentleman yield?
No, I will not. I'm going to finish. His main account didn't even mention the Epstein files once until June 5th of this year, this very year. Mr. Goldman didn't mention it really in his files until May 12th. Mr. Moskowitz, to the best of our knowledge, has never really mentioned it until recent time. I hear the moral righteousness, the righteous indignation, the supposed moral clarity. Where was it then? But now, because there's a change of administrations, now, because it can sideline what's a very important bill, we're not going to let that happen. All of a sudden, everybody's morally righteous, everybody's morally pure, everybody's morally concerned. We're all concerned about this issue. Right or left, Republican or Democrat, we are. But when it is used as a political tool, it is shameful to those young people who suffered. It is shameful to this institution. We have work here to do. And to just start bringing it up now, you know, if we saw for year after year after year after year, these folks have brought it up, but they did not. But now they do. I think that is shameful. I think it's disturbing. I don't know where the real moral righteousness or the moral clarity is because I don't see it there. So, Mr. Chairman, for one, as just one member of this committee, would suggest that we move forward and make sure that this good legislation that's been sponsored by Mr. Fry moves through, that unaccompanied alien children under 12 years and older, that we protect them and take care of them, because we can do that now. We can't completely undo what is the past, but we can move forward and make sure in many ways that something else horrible doesn't happen. With that, I think somebody asked for me to yield.
Yes, kindly.
Ranking member, yes, I yield.
Well, thank you very much, and it pains me to hear you impute hypocrisy and surplus moral self-righteousness to me. And I'm afraid...
And it hurts me to have to do it.
Well, I'm going to have to contradict the whole premise of your little filibuster against me, because I'm going to introduce for the record a letter I wrote on July 10th, 2019, when I was chairman of the Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Civil Liberties of the Oversight Committee. It's addressed to the Honorable Alexander Acosta. Dear Mr. Secretary, we're ready to invite you to testify at a hearing on July 23rd at 3 p.m. in room 2154.
I reclaim my time. I get your point.
Okay, wait,
But
but
let me finish here.
I want to read exactly what it's about.
It's my time, but wait a second. I'll let you go back.
From New Jersey,
I will say this. You have spoken more about it today in this one hearing than in all those previous years combined. I'll yield back to you again.
All right. So the hearing will examine your actions as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida in authorizing a non-prosecution agreement for Jeffrey Epstein, as well as the finding by a federal court that you violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by keeping this non-prosecution agreement secret from the many victims of Mr. Epstein's crimes. Your testimony is even more critical now that federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York unsealed a new indictment earlier this week outlining a host of additional charges against Epstein, including luring dozens of teenage girls to his homes in New York City and Palm Beach and paying them to engage in sexual activity with him. My friend, Mr. Van Drew, I was railing about this. You may have forgotten because that was during the Democratic period of your career when you were on our side of the aisle. You've blocked it out now.
I know,
okay?
Thank God.
But you may have blocked it out, but I didn't.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time.
Gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank God I did change, and this is just a good example of that.
Well, you have
No
political
offense to anybody.
amnesia.
It's my time. I still have many friends on the other side of the aisle, but here's the point. You still have spoken about it more today and yesterday and the day before than you did in all those years.
Well, are
That's
we trusting the
point.
same fact checkers
you're
on
much
that
more
you trusted in making your statement?
You're much, much more angry now than you ever were then, and I call that into question. I do, and that is my right. And I respect you, Ranking Member, but I feel strongly that what you're doing here is wrong. We have an important bill here. We need to move this bill through. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady. I appreciate.
I move to strike the last word.
Have you used your time? No, I don't. Okay, then I will go to the ranking member. Then we'll come down the dais.
Okay, we need to clean up some unfinished business. And let me start with my friend, Mr. Van Drew. I understand that was a bit of an embarrassing situation for you to be in, but I want to look to the larger. Oh, well, you accused us of not saying anything, and I gave you a letter. And we had a press conference to go with the letter. No, not yet. I'll come back to you, okay? But I demonstrated on July 10th, 2019, I sent a letter directly to Jeffrey Epstein, along with Chairman Cummings, may he rest in peace, demanding that, rather we sent it directly to Alex Acosta, demanding that he come in to defend the non-prosecution agreement that he made with Jeffrey Epstein behind closed doors and without consulting a single victim in that case, in total violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. And we demanded that he come in to defend that double-crossing agreement where they swept everything under the rug. And we railed about it at the time. Now, you retreated from saying you didn't hear anything from me. I didn't do anything about it, to saying, well, I'm speaking more about it now than then. Perhaps you've done some kind of comparative assessment. I'd love to see your statistical analysis of how many words I spoke back then, because I was railing about it back then versus how much I'm speaking about it now. But here's the point. All of this point, the point you just made, the point Mr. Gooden made, is a ridiculous, absurd, and humiliating distraction from the substance. In other words, you guys all agree that it should be released. In fact, you are on Mr. Massey's bill. You're on the bill. So you're saying it should be released, but you're upset because you think we're speaking about it more now than we spoke about it during the Biden administration? Give me a break. The Biden administration prosecuted and convicted Maxwell. She went to jail for 20 years. Wait, I'll come back to you, Mr. Van Drew. Listen to what I'm saying. You want to whine about the Biden administration? She was prosecuted under the Biden administration. That's why she's in prison now for 20 years. It wasn't the Trump administration, it was the Biden administration. We had every reason, as the distinguished gentlelady from Texas says, to believe that the investigation was still ongoing. And in fact, we learned more about it from Donald Trump, who was who was Epstein's best friend for more than 10 years. So he said there's more there. He said it's all got to be released. All the Republicans were railing about the fact it got to be released. We said we agree. I've been talking about this for 6 years, and I'm going to enter this into the record. And we had a press release and a press conference to go with it, which I'm going to introduce as well. So don't give me that nonsense about how we didn't care about child sex abuse and human trafficking before. Okay, that's number one. Now, number two. The Trump administration today is dismantling the anti-human trafficking operations of the United States government, okay? DOGE wiped out USAID, which was a very important force in attacking human trafficking networks around the world. They basically gutted at the U.S. State Department the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons. Now you say, all of my colleagues over there say, we all hate human trafficking. We're all opposed to the abuse of children. Really, then work with us to restore all of the funds that have been wiped out by the Trump administration. Can we do that? So this is not just like polemical games back and forth, which are not going so well for you today. I got to admit, Mr. Van Drew, if you just want to point fingers, it's not looking good for your side. Why don't you come aboard and say, let's restore all of the funding that was wiped out from the State Department, the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, USAID, and all of the law enforcement personnel who've been reassigned from doing human trafficking work to doing the kinds of immigration raids that have the country up in an uproar now. And I'm happy to yield to you for a second so you can respond to why you mischaracterized my record on this.
Mr. Raskin, thou protestest too much. You only talked about a plea deal in that letter. You never talked that I've seen about releasing the files, period. And let's really get back to the subject.
The prosecutions, this is my time, I'll reclaim my time. The reason for that is because the prosecutions were ongoing. As I just taught you a second ago, it was the Biden administration's Department of Justice that brought the prosecution against Ghislaine Maxwell. Back to you.
This could have been done for years. My point is, and it's consistent, all the moral indignation, all the righteousness, all the speeches, probably many of you have spoken more about it today than you did in your entire career. That's the reality.
Do you want the file released? Reclaiming my time. Mr. Van Drew, I'm happy to yield to you for this purpose and this purpose only. Do you demand the release of the entire Epstein file? The whole world's watching. Do you or do you not?
I'm a co-sponsor of the bill. But
okay, will you sign the discharge petition today?
That's a different issue.
No, I know. That's why I'm asking it to you.
That should go through a proper way so
that is proper.
We don't hurt innocent people. No, proper is going through committee and then going through the process of voting it on the floor. I said that when I co-sponsored it, and I say it now. The bottom line is you're talking about it more than you ever did. It's political.
Time of the gentleman from
I yield
Maryland.
back to
Time has expired. Does the gentleman from New Jersey speak additional time?
Only just quickly to say, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, that what I'm trying to point out is here, everyone cares about the issue. We on the Judiciary Committee are going to delve into it, but you're just focusing purely on a political issue. And it isn't consistent. I don't see the moral indignation, the moral righteousness, the purity of heart that you're professing to have. And Mr. Raskin, I think the world of you, you're one of the brightest people
Mr. Chairman, he already struck the last word. Are you giving him a second? Are we all getting a second 5 minutes?
Okay. I did not realize that Mr. Van Drew already spoke on the bill. We are on the bill. The gentlelady is correct. Well, the gentleman from
I apologize.
The gentleman from Alabama. The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for his 5 minutes.
If you would meet with the women who were sexually abused and raped and groomed at the ages of 14 and 16 years old. Are you going to cover up? Are you going to continue to cover up for the rich and powerful men, including those that might be on this committee?
I can yell too, Mr. Chairman, but I don't want to yell above this.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New Jersey. I appreciate the gentlelady yielding back.
Are you going to allow them to testify, Mr. Patel?
Go ahead.
Will you allow them to testify to you, Mr. Patel?
Mr. Patel, thank you for being here. I know it's been an interesting and difficult 2 days. And I wasn't going to talk about the Epstein thing because there's a lot of other issues that affect the FBI, but I have to say a few words. I've sat here, I've listened to this, I've watched it, and my Democratic colleagues are so concerned now, Mr. Patel, all of a sudden. Where were they last year? Where were they the year before? Where were they the year before that? Where was the last president in any of this? All I know, the only thing I see is a single letter from the ranking member that was sent in 2019 that he didn't like the plea deal, and some people signed on to that. Most of the truth, the real truth, let's be honest, let's be intellectually honest. The real truth is we didn't hear from them at all, anybody of them. Hardly any of them ever mentioned it. Some of them didn't mention it at all until the beginning of this year. Earlier in the year it started. Not one Democrat asked Director Wray. We all remember Director Wray was here. Not once, not twice, multiple times. Nobody asked Director Wray about Epstein before this committee. Nobody was that concerned. Where was the concern for the victims then? Where was the moral righteousness then? Where was the outrage then? Where was the sense of duty then? Where was the desire for accountability then? Where was the urgency for justice then? Most of all, where the hell was the integrity then? You know what the truth is. Let's just say it, man. Tell the truth time. The truth is, it's politically useful for them to try to do this now, even though they didn't give a damn about it in the past. And you know what? That's an insult to the victims, and that's an insult to America. Continue to do the work you're doing. Continue to uncover what needs to be uncovered. One real quick thing before I say anything to 9/11. We know that was mishandled by the past director and by the past FBIs. There are family members here. There are family members who are concerned. God Almighty, we want to get to the truth of that. I ask you, please, to meet with them, to talk to them, and to investigate this with truth. In the Biden administration, we went through a very dark and difficult period of time. The FBI trust was broken with the people. Catholics this is the stuff we've been talking about, were labeled radical threats for praying in their churches with their rosaries. Parents at school boards were called terrorists for standing up for their children. Hindu holy men in New Jersey. We have the largest Hindu temple in the world. They were attacked. They were put up against the wall with guns to their heads. So it isn't just a Catholic or Christian thing. American Jews were targeted in colleges and universities, and a lot of folks in the FBI, in the past FBI, not this one, didn't give a damn. We can't go back to targeting religion. We can't go back to silencing free speech. The Biden administration did that. So I got questions for you. Hopefully thoughtful questions that you can answer for us in a thoughtful way. How is this FBI now, under your leadership, how are we restoring trust for Catholics, for Hindus, for Jews, for parents, for all the other, for just American people that were targeted by FISA because they had a different viewpoint? How are we restoring that trust in the FBI?
Multiple ways, sir. One, and maybe most importantly, is through transparency and providing the American public with the material so they can read it themselves as to what the abuses were in the past, whether it relates to the Catholic memo or the Hindu incident you talked about at the largest temple in North America. Any institution of faith and any member of faith will not be investigated by this FBI because they are men and women of faith ever, period.
And nor should they. Nor should they. I don't mean to interrupt you, but my God, of all the amendments to the freedom of speech, freedom to believe in what you want to believe in, I know you're standing up for that. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Sorry.
Okay. The Richmond memo was driven by a reliance on sources. The Southern Poverty Law Center, the words sound nice, but the organization's not so nice. And we've seen the Anti-Defamation League distort data that counts as violence. Have you been able to identify and eliminate these kinds of partisan sources? We welcome all sources, but we want objectivity and neutrality and decency in the way we report all this. Have you been able to uncover any information there? How do we make sure our sources are good in the future?
We have reviewed the source processes that infiltrate any institutions of faith, and they will no longer be going into institutions of faith. They will be directed towards criminal activity and protecting the homeland, the two most important missions the FBI has, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Good. And I'll say this, there was a lot of bull today, a lot of you know what, and I'm not going to say it because I respect the institution so much going on around here. Continue to do the work of the people. You are here for that reason. The administration is here for that reason. It was weaponized and politicized, the FBI, in the past. I hope to God we never, ever see that again. One of the darkest parts of American history. Thank you, Mr. Vitale. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York is.
Thank you. I'm going to claim my time. Just have a few thoughts here, so bear with me. Some words were mentioned about the Crime Victims Fund and cuts and so forth. Let me just point out that this fund was down actually during the Biden administration because they failed to collect so many fines against criminals. Good to know. Some grant money was pulled from certain NGOs, not profits. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they were spending money. You know, it's important to realize here, money matters. Mrs. King, you're right, money matters. But if you're spending the money on the wrong stuff over and over again and continuing bad policies over and over again, the money doesn't matter. And in fact, maybe the money hurts because you're pushing these philosophies and these standards and what's happening in our country down everybody's throat, and you got the money to do it. So that's not always a good thing. More money to really enforce the law? Absolutely. And I know Mr. Klein well, and I know that he will fight for that. But we have to do the right thing. So some of these were funding to groups and NGOs that were pushing the exact opposite what the majority of you want and the vast majority of Americans want. Just a few questions here that I had. Mr. Federico, you know, I'm sorry, I don't have the words. I'm not going to pretend to have the words. But a simple answer is what I need here, because I want to make sure that we crystallize this. Should your daughter's murderer have been released so many times?
Absolutely not, 100%.
Clear as crystal clear, right?
Crystal clear. Couldn't be any clearer.
Yep, exactly. And if we had more money, she still would have been released if we had the same policies. That's the point. It's not the money.
It's bad decisions.
Yep. Mr. Campbell, all right, there you are. The assaults and the murders, what happened to you? What happened to your colleagues? What happened to those that are trying to keep us safe? And what's happening to much of the American public? Are bad judges, bad magistrates, bad prosecutors, bad laws, bad attorneys general, letting people out too early, is that the root cause of the problem? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. I appreciate it. Mr. Woody, bail. Could we, in your estimation, have saved lives if we had gotten rid of cashless bail and used secure bail, had bail that was secured?
Absolutely.
Again, crystal clear, right?
Crystal clear.
Nothing
Secured
really
bail
complicated.
interacts with the families
Thank
of the
you.
defendants.
Mr. Asher, you indicated that, you know, the crime rates dropped, lowest levels, and nothing's happened to anybody. And I say this respectfully, I'm not picking on you. I appreciate you being here. But man, talk to these people. You want to come in my district, I'll introduce you to a whole lot of folks that don't feel that way. Walk the streets of some of these cities. D.C., I told you the stories before. I mean, I've got an office there, and two, not one, but two of my people in my office have been victimized. A member of Congress's, you know, intern was murdered. People have been killed and beaten and hurt. It depends how statistics are compiled. Statistics don't always tell the story. Quite frankly, statistics always aren't accurate. Are we indicting everybody we should? Are we convicting everybody we should? Are we releasing more people than we should? That all affects those statistics. So I just wanted to say that to you. And, you know, there's concern, and I'm a Second Amendment guy, but I don't want to get into guns here. But we're going after people legally who have guns and think that's going to cure the problem. How about the bad people who've committed felonies over and over that are released again, and some of those felonies involve guns? Shouldn't they be incarcerated? I mean, that's clear. You should agree with that, whatever side of the aisle on, whether you're liberal, conservative, or whatever. So, you know, it's kind of the same theme. It's the same story. I just wanted to touch base on those few issues. And Ms. Alderman, just with you, do we need more accountability? Just give me a yes or no, maybe a few words. In our system, do we need more accountability?
We don't have any accountability,
So we
so
obviously
any
need-
little bit more would be great. Thank you, yes.
And do you believe that criminals should be released unsecured bond, with unsecured bond or no bond at all?
Of course not. They shouldn't be released with bond if they are charged with first-degree murder.
Absolutely, I agree with you, but imagine we're releasing folks with no bond or unsecured bond, even worse, but I agree
Sir,
with
I
you.
do not have to imagine. I live here in Charlotte.
I know, thank you. Yeah, and so let me just ask you a question, because you're a very outspoken lady, and then I will be done. You heard Mr. Asher say that everything's pretty good, crime rates down to record lows, no problems, everybody's happy. Is that you live in Charlotte, is that your perception?
Absolutely not, and I've lived in Charlotte back and forth during my life since I was 6 years old, and I'm 64. So I have a very good chronological memory of Charlotte and of the crime. And just since Mary was murdered 5 years ago in 2020, and she was one of those highest statistics in 2020, the crime is just, it's outrageous. And every single morning when you wake up, someone has been murdered, shot and killed, or murdered in some other way. Other crimes that involve knives, axes, these types of things. So, you know, it depends on your perspective. If you want to look at figures all day long, then you're going to have a, you know, I'm not a mathematician or, you know, that type of analytical person. I'm telling you,
I know
I
that
don't
you
feel
are.
safe.
I know that you are. And that last thing I would say, and again, respectfully, Mr. Asher, you know, I have an old rule when people are talking about what people are thinking in politics and public policy and government. Say, come on, come walk the streets. Walk the streets with me. You should walk the streets with these people and talk to what's going on out there. I don't know what your numbers are, but I think a lot of us know what's going on. With that, I want to recognize